So there's multiple things, right? One, there are the employment effects. If you have machines that can do natural language processing and basic computational processing without needing human intermediaries the way they do now, like when you call a call center, there's somebody typing it into the computer and making it computer friendly, whatever you're saying usually. Now, if we don't need people to do that anymore, or self-driving cars and trucks, right? Driving is the employment of last resort to millions of men around the world, especially low-skilled men. So if you remove that kind of employment opportunities at that end of the wage scale, especially, that's going to have major impact. So that's one of the things. The employment effects are question number one. The question number two is that we're increasingly moving to use artificial intelligence in decision. We're increasingly moving to use artificial intelligence in decision making in areas where we don't have right answers to begin with. So we started by automating, say, airplane flying, right? The cockpit is this awesome computer. And if you look at the results, flying has gotten safer. There are some long-tailed downsides to this in that pilots lose how to do some maneuvers. They forget. But we can probably deal with that because overall flying is safer. But when you're automating a cockpit, you have laws of nature, you have, the whole area of aviation depends on understanding the physics of flying. And you have a clear statistic, right? Are we safer or not? And you have a very expensive process by which a line of code gets into that cockpit, right? It's very heavily regulated. Now compare this to something like using artificial intelligence or machine learning systems to decide who to hire, right? Here, one, you're using this data that's been profiled about us. So that's the first question. What rights do we have to our data and who gets it? And right now, it's kind of a no man's land. Number two, there is no right answer. There is no right answer who's the best person to hire. So it's not like you can really check what your artificial intelligence system has done the way you can with a plane. Now, you might argue that we could look at productivity statistics and overall can decide, is the system more productive? And is my company more productive after I switch to AI? So that's fine. That's one way to look at it. You're optimizing for something. But when you optimize for something like that, say productivity, it's quite plausible that your artificial intelligence system, for example, might be weeding out people prone to depression. And it might be doing it in a statistical way, so it's not even people who are in depression. We have proof that you can do this. With machine learning systems, you can detect likelihood of depression months before any clinical symptoms, right? There's a lot of things like that. So your system might be optimizing for the variable you've chosen, but it might have all sorts of very subtle effects that you don't even get to see because increasingly we don't understand what our artificial intelligence machines are doing. Historically, they've always thought about, like chess had been this big landmark, can computers play better chess than humans? And that's very misleading because the whole point of chess is that it's not something humans are good at. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a game, right? If we were great at it, why would we play it, right? It's a challenge to the human mind. It's a very regimented way of thinking. And it's the kind of thing computers are good at. So that's not the comparison to think about. But I'm seeing now, like, computers are getting good at games that they aren't naturally suited to or weren't before, like detecting emotions, understanding the context of conversations, playing poker. So there's these all kinds of ways in which they're able to do things that had been the things we were strong at. So computers playing chess doesn't really create a challenge for human intellect because that's not what human intellect has been good at. But computers doing these basic everyday tasks better and better. And it doesn't have to be at a human level to create a crisis for humans to face. It just has to be good enough for corporations to start using it widely, for a government to start using it widely. And we're increasingly seeing this, that artificial thinking machines are being used to make decisions for which there is no right answer or laws of nature we can calibrate against the way we can for automating flying, and are being deployed without a lot of checks, without a lot of regulation, without a lot of deep dives. And maybe most worryingly, they do work at optimizing whatever it is that you're optimizing. So that makes it very attractive to a company. Like, oh, look, my productivity has gone up. And all of a sudden, you can imagine a process by which every company is hiring by, machine learning algorithms. And that has created this huge demand for the surveillance industrial complex that's profiling us. And that these algorithms are subtly discriminating against all sorts of people that we might not want to do. It might, then we have, very productive companies and a pool of unemployed, and they're all people prone to clinical depression. Like, is this the kind of society we just want to rush into without thinking, wait, is this what we want to do? What are the error patterns of these machines? How do they really make these decisions? Yes, productivity is up as a result of hiring like this, but what else is happening? And I don't really see that kind of let's figure this out happening at the same rate as let's deploy this. And that's what's worrying me.